everybody, I'm here with Tommy again. We are doing another video. This is a long one. It's about weird facts.
Oh, so fun.
Do you want to start or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Alright. Did you guys know Spider-Man didn't always fly?
Superman.
It's Superman. Let's start this again. Alright. So today I'm here with Tommy, like always. And we're going to talk about weird facts. This is going to be a long one, so... First off, did you guys know Superman didn't always fly? The original Superman could leap tall buildings in a single bound, but then he had to come right back down to Earth because he didn't fly. It wasn't until the 40s when animators for a new animation series decided it would be too hard to routinely draw him bending his knees that it was decided that Superman would take off into the air.
Oh, right. I actually knew that.
I didn't know that. I thought he always flew.
I'm a comics freak. Or I was when I was a kid.
He always, he's bulletproof and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, but, I mean, even at the beginning of the cartoons, they always said you could leap tall buildings in a single bound.
Yeah, I knew that part.
Well, I'm just saying that that's where that came from. What the hell? Ignore my song. That's my medicine song. Ah, damn it. Okay. Sorry, guys.
No copyright.
Shut up. The first computer was invented in the 1940s. When supercomputers first came around, they needed a lot of room. First one was called Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer. Or ENIAC. That's a weird fact. Built at the University of Pennsylvania. I actually knew that. It took up like a lot of space. Built at the University of Pennsylvania School of Engineering in 1946. It weighed 60,000 pounds and took up a room larger than most studio apartments. Shortly after made, it was sent to the military where it was used to launch missiles with great accuracy. Okay.
Space smells like seared steak or hot metal.
What?
The astronauts are hungry. So the astronauts said they came back. They're like, it's like seared steak or metal.
That's weird. Okay. The longest wedding veil was the same length as 63.5 football fields by Maria Paraskeva. I probably said that wrong. From Cyprus in August of 2018. Why would you want your veil to be that fucking long?
63.5 football fields.
That's 100 yards each. That's a lot of fucking yards. Yeah. That's a really, really long bit. Why would you want that to be?
I wouldn't.
It would weigh like hundreds of pounds.
Imagine trying to dance to that. I bet you had to take it off.
Probably.
The unicorn is the national animal of Scotland.
That makes me think they were real at one time.
They also believe in fairies and...
So does Irish. What's your point?
I see.
Rolling the windows up.
Wasps are bad.
Tommy's allergic to bees and wasps and...
Because the next one's about bees.
Oh, fuck me. Okay, so bees sometimes sting other bees when protecting their hives from outsiders. Some guard bees will stay by the entrance and sniff the bees that come in. If there is a rogue bee from another hive trying to steal some nectar, the guard bee will bite and even sting the intruder. Wow. That's scary.
Kids can ask up to 300 questions a day.
I probably tripled that because I'm ADHD. Just so you know.
Mommy.
The total weight of ants on Earth once equaled the total weight of people. That's a lot of people. I mean, a lot of ants. A lot of people, too, but still.
E is the most common letter and appears in 11% of all English words.
Really? See, I didn't know that.
And A is the next one, I believe. That's what it said.
Huh. Ooh, this one sounds interesting. 12 bodies were found in Benjamin Franklin's basement. They were found in a 1998 renovation of the house, including 6 children. The most plausible explanation is not mass murder, but an anatomy school run by Benjamin Franklin's young friend and protege, William Hewson. Although some could have been bodies stolen from graveyards to the... Is that Thames?
Thomas Wharf.
Thames Wharf? I'm pretty sure it's Thames. Like the river. At the bottom of the street where there was weekly public execution at the gallows in the other side of the garden wall. Oh, it says the dude was probably just stealing the bodies after they hung them.
You're hung, I'm going to steal your body and just like dissect you.
Well, it was for science.
A lot of people did it back then, though.
Yeah.
The healthiest place in the world is in Panama, called Shangri-La.
Shangri-La.
Yeah, Valley. There is a home of... Yeah, they are...
Try again.
They are is home... Wow, I completely messed it up. Of beautiful scenery, a low cost of living, and a longer life expectancy.
They're monks.
Oh.
No, seriously, they're monks. They grow their own food. They don't eat meat. Yeah. And they exercise daily, all that kind of stuff, so. A pharaoh lathered his slaves in honey to keep bugs away from him. King Pepe II, who supposedly ruled for 90 years, thought so highly of himself that when he was bothered by insects, he would command that one of his slaves would be covered in honey to lure the flies away from him.
So just give it to the slaves. I don't want to be covered in bugs.
I never thought of doing that. I should really do that to you. I'm always bothered by flies, no matter where I go. There's always flies on me, and I freaking hate it.
Maybe I should give her back her ring. Give him back his ring.
Again.
Anyways.
Next.
Some people have an extra bone in their knee. Let's see, called a fibula, and while this particular little bone with an unknown purpose was once fading away over the last century and a half, it's gotten more common. Back in 1875, nearly 18% of people examined had a fibula. That number dropped to 11% by 1918. However, by 2018, 39% of individuals had this mysterious bone.
Oh.
I wonder why we got it back.
I don't know. Must have needed it for some reason.
That's weird. We lose it and then got it back.
I was born with an extra bone.
I mean, you got, 2 extra bones.
Technically. But my favorite one is that I was born with an extra rib. It sits on the 11th and 12th ribs on my left side. It's actually kind of cool. It's a lot easier to see when I'm skinny, though. I'm not that skinny anymore. Shut up! Pringles aren't actually potato chips. Pringles are made of thinly sliced potatoes, but instead...
No, not made.
Oh. Aren't made of thinly sliced potatoes, but instead dehydrated potato flakes pressed into their signature parabolic shape. That's what makes them less greasy. But when other potato chip manufacturers complained, the Food and Drug Administration ruled that Pringles couldn't be marked as chips. The company eventually settled on potato crisp. That's not wrong. Potato crisp does work, considering it's not technically a chip.
There's a giant fish with a transparent head because of the extreme pressure and cold and dark at the depths. Only the very strongest of creatures can survive. These include giant tube worms, vampire squids, goblin sharks, and viper fish with teeth so long that they can't close their mouths. Perhaps the strangest, though, is the barrel eye, a large fish with a completely transparent head.
What depths are you talking about?
Like the lowest depth.
There are no animals in the lowest depth.
Yeah, this is where you get the weird one with the little lantern on top of its head and stuff.
You're talking about lower depths, but you're not talking about the lowest depth. I'm talking about the Marianas Trench is the lowest depth.
Not that.
And there are no animals as of discovered yet in the Marianas Trench.
Low.
I've done my research on it. Okay.
This is actually about a famous pit bull. They always say terrier, but it's a pit bull.
There's a decorated war hero dog. Rags? Dog hero. What the While in the trenches of World War I, the U.S. 1st Infantry Division found themselves unable to communicate with other troops because shellfire had damaged the telephone wires. Young private came up with a unique solution. Rags, a mixed breed, what do you call him?
It's a pity, like
pit bull.
American pit bull, but
Well, maybe he's also part terrier. Whom the soldiers had adopted in Paris, would carry the messages from one division to the next, tucked into his collar. He saved many lives, and when Rags passed away in Maryland at the very advanced age of 20, he was buried with military honors. I'm gonna cry.
When you take a shower, it really does spark creativity. It helps you relax and everything so that you can think.
Only if you like taking showers.
I'm sure like a bath kind of works too.
For me, a bath works better because my entire body relaxes and I can, my muscles aren't, I'm not standing on my feet,
This one I never even knew about. It kind of explains why he was able to get shot. Hey, for helmet.
Why are you skipping ahead? I was talking about the showers and the baths.
That we were moving on.
Abraham Lincoln's bodyguard left his post at Ford's Theater to go for a drink. The president had a bodyguard named John Frederick Parker with him on that fateful night. Unfortunately, Parker was a police officer with a less than stellar reputation. After arriving 3 hours late for his shift, the officer left his post protecting the president to get a drink at the Star Saloon next door to the theater. It was during this time that Booth entered the box seats where Lincoln was sitting and shot the president.
So I was wondering why it was so easy to shoot the president.
There's actually a conspiracy theory about that.
Oh?
Yeah.
What's that?
It's said that he was paid by Booth to leave.
Maybe.
So that he could go kill the president because he didn't like the president either.
Oh.
So he accepted money to leave so Booth could kill him.
That would make sense.
It's actually pretty plausible.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Dolphins have been trained to be used in wars. Dolphins are known intelligent animals. What is not as widely known is that these crafty creatures were used largely by the U.S. and Soviet Union during the Vietnam War and the Cold War. Both countries studied the creatures for their sonar capabilities, but also train them to detect mines, bring equipment to divers, find lost equipment, and guard submarines, amongst other nifty tricks.
Well, that's interesting. Playing the accordion was once required for teachers in North Korea to get their teaching certifications. That's a weird thing. Because the accordion is portable in a way that, say, a grand piano isn't, it was thought of as the people's instrument that could be taken outside and played for laborers in the fields. It's so weird to me. There are other more portable
An accordion.
clarinet. That's pretty portable.
A
Flute.
Yeah.
Recorders. Pretty portable. Even snare drums are more portable
An accordion.
than an accordion. Those things are so bulky and much easier to learn how to play.
Bagpipe. Probably come up.
Jeez.
Alright, children's medicine once contained morphine. 1800s, babies cried while teething. Your parents might have given you Miss Winslow's soothing syrup. This medicine claimed that it soothes the child, it softens the gums, and allays all pain. It may have done plenty of soothing, but it was also extremely dangerous. This concoction, like many patient medications of the
Patent.
time, patent medication of the time, contain morphine. They also liked cocaine and all kinds of other
It used to
fun
be
drugs.
common to put just a little bit of your favorite kind of liquor on your finger and rub it on your kids' gums when they were teething. Or put some in a bottle to help them sleep. It's just illegal now.
Let's drug our kids.
It's what they used to do. They didn't know how else to deal with them.
That's scary because morphine lowers your pulse and your heart rate.
You know how many babies died from that shit?
Exactly.
A lot. And no wonder the population was so shitty until they started putting regulations in place, and now there's too many people. Water makes different pouring sounds depending on its temperature. Hot water and cold water sound slightly different when being poured. Heat changes the thickness or viscosity of the water, which changes the pitch of the sound it makes when it's poured. I didn't know that.
Alright. The one man saved more than 200 people from suicide Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco. And the Golden Gate Bridge, I guess, is a site where many suicides take place. One California Highway Patrol officer has done more to combat this problem than any other individual. Officer Kevin Briggs, who battles depression himself, has personally talked more than 200 people down from proverbial ledge throughout his career. After retiring in 2013, Briggs wrote a book called Guardian of the Golden Gate, and now goes on speaking tours to encourage public discussion of suicide and mental illness.
There's actually another story about a man who has made his life goal to save a lot of people from jumping off of a bridge nearby. He lives within walking distance, so he sees people doing that all the time, and he'll just pop down real fast while they're making their decision to jump or not and talk them out of it. Invite them back to his house to feed them and give them something hot to drink and then send them home.
I've been to Golden Gate. It's beautiful.
I've never been.
Someday.
Our European ancestors were cannibals in the 16th and 17th century. Really? Cannibalism was actually a fairly common practice, and it was all for medical purposes. Practice seems to have started because Egyptian mummies were thought to have magical curative properties, so they were ground up and put in many remedies. Okay. As the idea evolved, human bone, blood, and fat were all used in medical concoctions, while medical cannibalism has fallen out of favor. Modern medicine still sometimes uses one human body to heal another in the form of blood donations, organ transplants, and skin grafts.
I would find it so trippy to have somebody else's body parts inside me.
Eating them, you mean?
No, just like even in skin grafts and stuff. My sister has like a bone like for each of her foot from the surgery, so it's donor bone.
Really? I didn't know that.
Dogs actually understand some English, but dogs can learn to recognize a vocabulary of about 165 words. And surprisingly, dogs respond best to short words as well as words with hard consonants like T or R, which explain why they can hear treat. If you want to try to expand your dog's vocabulary, be consistent. For example, always call a meal dinner instead of breakfast, lunch, or supper.
I saw a meme about that, actually. Somebody said, I think my dog is pretty smart. People think dogs are stupid, you know.
Dogs are smart.
But I think my dog is pretty smart because it can understand a lot more human words than I can woofs or something like that. It was really funny. Never mind. Shut up. Koalas have fingerprints. Chimpanzees and gorillas have human-like fingerprints, and so do koalas. Koala prints are very similar to human fingerprints, even to expert crime scene investigators. So a koala could go into somebody's house and kill them and get away with it.
Yep.
Trippy.
So riding a roller coaster could help you pass a kidney stone after multiple people reported they had passed a kidney stone while riding Walt Disney's world's biggest Thunder Mountain Railroad ride.
Interesting. Well, bee hummingbirds are so small they get mistaken for insects. Hummingbirds are known for being itty-bitty creatures, but bee hummingbirds are the teeniest versions of these shockingly tiny flyers. They're actually the smallest bird in the world. They are so minuscule that they are sometimes mistaken for insects, which explains their name. According to the National Audubon Society, the birds are just 2¼ inches long and weigh less than a dime. That's like really, really small birdie. I'm serious, it's like that big.
Oh.
That would be why they're called bee hummingbirds, because they're about the size of a bee.
Babies.
Tiny little shits.
Sea lions can dance to a beat. There are only 2 animals on Earth with the proven ability to move their bodies in time with an external beat.
Mammals.
Humans and sea lions. Though parrots can also keep a rhythm, it was previously thought that only animals capable of complex vocal learning could do this.
The famed Typhoid Mary infected more than 50 people by cooking for them. Typhoid Mary. Typhoid Mary was a real historical person who became notorious in the early 1900s. She was an Irish woman named Mary Mallon, who immigrated to the United States in the 1880s. Though she had no symptoms of typhoid fever, she carried the bacteria in her blood and could pass it on to other people. Because no doctor could convince her that this was true and she didn't feel sick, she insisted on working as a cook. During her career, she infected at least 51 people, 3 of whom died before she was isolated and enforced quarantine for the last decades of her life. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being a carrier of a disease like that?
And being forced to be quarantined.
No, not even like that. They told her,
Yeah.
and she refused to believe it, and ended up killing people because she refused to
At
believe
least
it.
51.
No, she infected 51. Only 3 died.
At least, but who knows?
It says 3 of whom died. Anyway, the point is, can you imagine being infected like that and just being like, no, I don't believe it. I'm just going to keep cooking for people.
Where you hear Typhoid Mary. You hear
That's crazy.
it's like, oh, she's a Typhoid Mary. What was that?
One of my games?
The legend of the Loch Ness Monster goes back nearly 1,500 years. There's a tale written in the year 565 AD that speaks of an Irish monk traveling through Scotland while there St. Columbia heard stories of water beasts that attacked and killed the local people when they went in the river. Wanting to help, the monk used his friend as bait to lure the beast into sight, at which point Columbia commanded to go no further, and the creature stopped and swam back upstream. The river is now known in Scotland as the River Ness, which flows out from the famous Loch Ness.
That's interesting. Never knew that. Nutmeg can be fatally poisonous. A little dash of nutmeg in a pumpkin pie or on your eggnog can give it some extra flavor and a lovely spicy scent. Too much nutmeg, however, can be toxic. Toxic. 2 or 3 teaspoons of raw nutmeg can induce hallucinations, convulsions, pain, nausea, and paranoia that can last for several days. Actual fatalities are rare, but they have happened. Ooh. If you want to murder someone, maybe get away with it. Just dump
Don't, no! You shouldn't talk like that here.
I'm just playing. What? It's funny.
Chinese police use geese squads. As of 2013, 12 police stations in a rural area of China have begun to use geese as sentries.
centuries.
They are alert animals and, as you probably know, can create a lot of noise and commotion, which creative Chinese law enforcement officers are taking advantage of. While this trend has yet to spread throughout China, Dongguan police claim that the geese have already stopped at least one theft.
Dongguan. I'm sorry, I'm like a 12-year-old boy and an old man makes,
She's crazy. He's crazy.
dirty mind. I'm not crazy. I just have a dirty mind. First iPhone wasn't made by Apple. First mobile device to be called an iPhone was made by Cisco, not Apple. It allowed the user to use the voice functions of Skype without a computer. Apple announced its own product just 22 days later, and Cisco sued for trademark infringement. The lawsuit was ultimately settled out of court, and both companies were allowed to keep using the name. However, you've probably never heard of the Cisco iPhone. I have, but that's just because I used to work for AT&T, and they made it a point to never ever bring that up on the call.
This is a country where twins are most likely to be born. Benin, a country in Central Africa, is notable for having the highest birth rate of twins in the world.
Really? Well, that's interesting. For 100 years, maps have shown an island that doesn't exist. Almost nothing is known about Sandy Island, a landmass about the size of Manhattan, in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Australia. Supposedly, explorer James Cook, discovered it in 1876, and it began appearing on nautical maps in 1908. It wasn't until 2012, when a team of Australian scientists set out to survey the island, that they discovered there was no island there at all. Scientists guess that Cook may have in fact spotted a pumice raft of floating volcanic stone and gas. Sydney Morning Herald even published an obituary for Sandy Island. Now, that's not necessarily true. It could have been an actual island that was there back in the day, and then an earthquake just settled it down under the water.
Yeah,
or a tsunami, maybe.
Lots of islands and stuff goes underwater after a while. They disappear.
The structure weakens underneath the water, and then the whole thing just goes...
yeah,
like sand, just...
There's been a lot of islands that have disappeared.
That's what I think.
The Queen has some hidden hideaways. Since the early 13th century, the city of London has officially paid rent to the Crown for 2 small pieces of property. Fortunately for the city, the price has stayed the same for more than 800 years. 1 knife, 1 axe, 6 horseshoes, and 61 nails presented every autumn in the ceremony of quit rents. Although one of these properties is located in the moors in Shropshire, and the other is near the Royal Courts of Justice in the city itself, no one knows the exact location of the Queen's land.
That's weird. You would think by now she would be like, no, I'm good.
But they still pay it with horses, shoes.
That's what I'm saying. It makes no sense. Okay. The man who wrote Dracula never visited Transylvania. Bram Stoker was an Irish author who is now best remembered for his gothic horror novel, Dracula. Partially set in Transylvania, a mountainous region in central Romania. The story cemented the legend of the vampire in mainstream European and American culture.
I've actually read it. It's pretty interesting.
I read it when I was a kid.
The Australian government banned the word mate for a day in 2005. Australian Parliament took a few citizen complaints a little too seriously and banned anyone on their staff from using the word mate while at work. Fortunately, Prime Minister John Howard objected, claiming that mate was an important part of Australian culture, and the ban was overturned within 24 hours. Okay, mate.
Why that word? Are people using it inappropriately?
Aren't you dirty, mate?
Okay. Stop with the accents. It's weird. I feel like you're just making fun.
I'm not. I'm not making fun. Nah.
Many languages have the same roots. English, Portuguese, Latvian, Pashto, and Greek all sound very different today. But these languages all have a common ancestor called Proto IndoEuropean. Okay. Though we don't have any written examples of it, linguists have worked backwards from a variety of modern languages to try to reconstruct it. Huh. Interesting.
This one's interesting. A tick bite can make you allergic to red meat. In a strange and growing trend, some people who get bitten by the Lone Star tick can develop a sudden allergy to red meat. Beef, lamb, and pork can make people with this allergy experience headaches, sneezing, runny nose, and nausea. In severe cases, it can cause a person to be unable to breathe. For some sufferers, the allergy fades over time, but for others, it's permanent.
I've heard about that. That sucks. I like red meat.
I just like food.
Same. Wish I could eat right now. Shut up, I'm a fat boy. Harriet Tubman was even more heroic. She was the first woman to lead an armed assault. She planned and executed a number of raids and was known to carry a revolver for personal protection.
Yeah. She was known to help people, like slaves, run from with the Underground Railroad too and stuff.
Yeah, that's what she's most noted for. Mine's better.
Napoleon was once attacked by thousands of rabbits, suffered an ignominious defeat at the hands of rabbits. After a military victory, Napoleon's chief of staff organized a rabbit hunt to celebrate. Thousands of rabbits were brought in to be set loose, but instead of hopping around when the cages were open, they turned to attack, swarming the partygoers. After trying and failing to shoo them away, the great Emperor Napoleon ran for the safety of his carriage.
That must be where the,
Poor Napoleon.
Oh, Monty Python gets that joke from.
Probably.
You know what I'm talking about?
I didn't really watch too many of Monty Python.
There's a skit in Monty Python where there's a rabbit and there's a guy hiding.
Oh,
And another guy walks up and he's like, "It's just a rabbit." "No, that rabbit will kill you. Don't go near that rabbit." So dude goes near the rabbit and gets eaten. And then it happens to somebody else and somebody else, so somebody finally kills it. But it's really funny. That's where it came from.
Probably.
Star Trek's Scotty stormed the beach in Normandy. Canadian actor James Doohan, best known for playing Montgomery Scott on the original Star Trek series, served in World War II with the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division. As a commissioned lieutenant, he led his troop up a mine-strewn Juno